Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Mike Murphy. He's a successful entrepreneur, speaker, coach, philanthropist. He's the founder of Mountains of Hope, a transformational retreat center in Colombia. He is a Wall Street Journal bestseller, author of The Creation Frequency. And we welcome Mike to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So where are you calling in from? You in Colombia at the moment?
Yep, Medellin. Well, actually not in the city of Medellin. We're 15 minutes from the Medellin airport in Rio Negro, but it's about 30-minute drive to Medellin.
And that's where the retreat center is based.
Yeah, what's really cool about it, I've been to a lot of resorts and retreats and wellness centers, and you get picked up at the airport, and then you have a 2-hour drive. We pick you up at the airport here, and you're at our property in less than 15 minutes. So that's really cool.
Proximity to airports is huge because you split your time between California and Colombia, right?
Yeah. So my career was really over 30 years as an automobile dealer in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I still have 4 kids and 8 grandkids there. So I try to get home at least 1 week every 6 weeks so I can be a father and a grandfather. And with that said, Mountains of Hope is starting to really take off and become very popular. So I anticipate I'll be able to spend more time in California with my kids and grandkids and less time working here in the near future.
It's an interesting 1-2 combination.
Yeah, it's a long journey though. And airline traffic is very suspect at the moment. Just to give you an example, when I was flying here after Christmas, we're going into Houston to land, and we're about ready to touch down, and the guy takes off again. He says, "Hey, there's bad weather on the ground. There's tornadoes around, and so we're going to circle for about an hour." And then he goes, "We're going to try it one more time, and if I can't land, we're going to go to Austin." And I had a connection to catch it and go to Medellin. Long story short, we do land, and then we sit on the tarmac for 90 minutes waiting for a gate. And then I get off the plane, miss my connection, can't get my luggage, and the next flight is 4 p.m. the next day. So, and almost every flight I take now, there's some sort of mechanical issue, weather issue, or luggage issue. So it's a bit trying. It's an all day. It's like 14, 15 hours each way by the time I make my connection. So it's a long journey.
Yeah, because you're kind of going West Coast to East Coast.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly what, and going south. So
if you were in Miami or something, direct flight, California, a bit of a different story. By the way, you see the fires?
I was talking to my son last night. He was telling me about them. I have a granddaughter down there. I have a couple other relatives down there. So they're all being evacuated. In fact, my son's grandfather-in-law is 95 years old and being evacuated right now. So it's terrible.
The fires in LA we're referring to, because this might come out a couple of weeks from now, right. But it just kicked off in the Pacific Palisades.
Yeah, a mess.
So Colombia, I'm curious, I guess the most direct question would be, you have all the family ties in California, you have a reason to be there. Why couldn't you just do this, your wellness center, say in Napa Valley or Santa Barbara, something like that? Why do you feel like you needed to bring it down to Colombia to do it?
Well, I think for natural healing, it's more accepted in a place like this. The U.S. is controlled by the American Medical Association, Big Pharma, and some of the things that I wanted to do and teach, it goes against their grain. The philosophy there is let's just treat the symptoms and give prescriptions, not realizing that each prescription carries 10 to 20 other side effects. And so I just wanted to be outside the U.S. I also wanted to have a plan B. So I came down here in 2015. And after my wife passed away in 2011, I had a lot of time on my hands. So I really started studying the history of what was going on in the U.S. And I just felt it was headed in the wrong direction, and it would be good to have another passport and another place to live. Fortunately, I found the most amazing piece of property to build this wellness center. I just fell in love with Medellin. The wellness center is 7,000 feet in the air. The city of Medellin is 5,000 feet in the air, but we're located in the Andes Mountains near the equator. And
Mhm.
because of that, every day the temperature is same 365 days a year. So at our Wellness Mountains of Hope, it's 55 to 75 every day, and the weather's profound. Plus, we grow over 50 fruits and vegetables here, so in the cleanest soil you could ever imagine. So when we say farm to table, is really farm to table, and as organic as we use real seeds. We don't use GMO seeds. So there was just a lot of benefits to being here, and the cost of labor is a lot less here, so I don't need to charge people as much. So there was a lot of pluses to being here, and I just fell in love with Colombia.
Tell me about the plan B side of things. What kind of got you thinking about that?
Well, if you start looking at the U.S. and their history, especially since the assassination, well, you could really say since they started the Federal Reserve in 1913 and started giving income taxes, and then you look at the assassination of John F. Kennedy, which many people believe was not as advertised. Then you look at other events like Vietnam War, and there was some false flags that started that. The Cuban Missile Trial, the Cuban Missile event. And then also, there's a lot of different narratives around 9/11, a lot of different narratives around, a lot of things happening there. And when it comes to healthcare, this is interesting. In 2002, the World Health Organization did a study of all the countries and the quality of healthcare. And the United States ranked 37th, and that was 22 years ago. And
Mhm.
Colombia ranked 22nd. And I think if you did it again today, the US would probably be in the 50s and Colombia would probably be in the teens. So the quality of healthcare here is much better. And so that's another positive to being here.
Mike, tell me, do you go to the dentist in California or in Colombia?
Definitely Colombia. I'll give you an example. I had a dear friend. She had a quote to do her dental work in the US. It was $35,000. And she came down here and she got it done for $5,500 and with better materials, so and better care. I mean, they literally, I'll give you an example. I tore a meniscus maybe 2016 or something in my knee. It swelled up to double its size. I could barely walk. And I went to a doctor down here, and literally he was the best knee surgeon in Colombia. He did all the national soccer players, and I literally spent 30 minutes consult with this guy for 50,000 pesos, which at the time was like $20. So they really take an interest in you and care about you. So it's just a different experience. And I'm not condemning the doctors in the US. I just think the way the system has been designed now, that they don't have time to spend time with their patients. They have so many insurance codes, and they probably see 50, 60 patients a day. So they don't have time to, sit there and get to know you and really spend time with you. And here they do. And I find that very enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a more warm, more
Mm.
human experience in Latin America, I think.
And much more family oriented. Are you Canadian or US?
I'm a dual citizen, actually, Canada, US.
Okay. So, it's first of all, they put family first and foremost here. And I love that. So let's say we're going to have a family event in the States. It's generally, centered around watching a football game or something. Here, they go to their finca, which translates to a farm, every weekend, especially 3-day weekends, which they have 20 a year. And they just sit there and talk amongst one another. So I just think the family aspect here is better. The U.S. has kind of lost its soul in that regard.
It's one of those things you just got to see to understand how Sunday is family day.
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, I do this every Sunday in Medellin. They close down the biggest boulevard, and thousands of people are either walking it with their family, riding a bike with their dogs, jogging, and then there's vendors along the side. There's music playing, and that's every Sunday. And just it's just a beautiful thing. I love doing it. It's called Ciclovia, and I just
Mhm.
love doing it. And like I said, the weather's always perfect, so it's always a joy to do that walk.
Are we getting you out on a bike or roller skates or walking?
I just walk. I'm 67 years old, so walking. Now, one thing we have at Mountains of Hope, which I try to do as often as possible, we have 20 acres, and I created a walking
Wow.
path around the whole property. It's about 1.2 miles, but it's got about 200 feet of altitude change, and you're at
Nice.
7,000 feet, so you have to really breathe in some oxygen to make this walk. So, walking is good for me, and lifting a little weights is about all I'm up to nowadays.
That's awesome. So it kind of goes around the perimeter of your
Yeah.
property?
Yeah, and it starts with 127 steps up a steep hill, and then you get to this top of our property, and you have this most amazing view of the Andes. And then you kind of walk down a little bit, then you walk up a little bit. Now you're in our, we have 2 acres where we grow nothing but vegetables and fruits. So you get to experience that. And when you come around the corner and you see these vibrant colors coming out of the ground, it kind of reminds you of, the simplicity of life, and how we can just build our own, create our own food, and get it right out of the soil, and it's so good for our cells and our nutrition. Then we walk through the woods for maybe 10 minutes. Then we have at the bottom of the property, we have a lake. I built a gazebo on the lake, and we have a fountain so you can sit down there and meditate. And then you just come back up to the main property. So it's a very beautiful walk. I call
Gazebo, fountain.
I call it the Camino de Miguel. So the walk of Mike.
I love it. I
Yeah.
mean, dude, you're living the dream. Who doesn't want to have 20 acres of
Yeah.
lush land?
I mean, I'm sitting here looking at this view right now. The sun is out, the sky is blue, and just it's the scenery changes every 5-10 minutes. As the clouds move about. It's just really, I've been all over the world, and there's really nothing like this experience that I have here, and what we offer to our guests. So that's what we're super excited about.
And so when people come to the center, they're staying at the center?
Yes, so we have, it's a very small, intimate boutique kind of place. It's a five-star resort. We have 12 bedrooms and we have 18 beds. So we're limited in
Mm,
what we can do, but we do serve the local community with like stem cells and natural killer cells. So they'll just come for the day and they'll participate in that, or they'll just
smart.
come, like we have a sauna from Finland and a cold water plunge. We have all this biohacking stuff. We have a saltwater pool. So a lot of people will just come for like a day spa, and then we have a medical center on site. We have
Wow.
two doctors. We have hyperbaric chamber. We do
Wow.
IVs. We do colonics. We do ozone therapy. So there's acupuncture, Chinese medicine. We believe that what gets people sick is their environment, and to change that, if they can change their environment, and we've created probably the most powerful healing environment that I've ever experienced myself. And by changing the environment, you can start to change your personality. And if you want to change your personal reality, you need to change your personality. And what's your personality? Is what you think, what you say, what you do. So we put people in an environment where, and a large part of this is detoxing the body, especially in America today. So much processed foods. The air is very contaminated with metals. The water is super contaminated if you're not using a filter. So I find that most people in the U.S., many are addicted to that processed food because it's designed to addict you. So we find that those people come here, and we start to get the heavy metals out of their body. We get the parasites out of their body. At the
Mm.
same time, we're giving these powerful green juices every day, this plant-based food, and all of a sudden they start to have breakthroughs. But a lot of times that leads to a lot of emotional stuff. And so a lot of illnesses are related to some emotional wound that's never been healed. So we do a lot of work with that. We do indigenous ceremonies here. So we have almost everything that will assist somebody in transforming their life, becoming the best version of themselves, and healing their body, mind, heart, and soul.
Wow. I wish I got that out of you within the first like 3 minutes. I don't think you could do this in the USA. I don't think you'd be allowed to have, stem cells in a doctor's studio together with the spa, together with a hotel. Like, how
Yeah.
many licenses would that be in California?
Well, I don't know about California. I mean, you can do it. You can't do some of the stuff like our stem cells. They have stem cells in the U.S., but they come from either your own fat or your own bone marrow, or, like I said, I'm 67, there might be a few floating around in my bloodstream. So they can use those. But what we do is we get them. We have a partnership with the National University of Colombia, and
Mm,
they've been growing these stem cells for over 20 years. And what they do is they take the umbilical cord, and it's called Wharton's jelly. And so they take the stem cells from that, which are brand new baby stem cells. When the sperm hits the egg, the first cell that creates the human being is a stem cell. And so then they grow these. And so, like, for example, yesterday I just had 150 million stem cells put into my body via IV, along with 15 billion exosomes. Exosomes are a byproduct of the stem cell. They're the communication between the stem cell and the organ or the ligament or whatever's going on, and also
mm.
the inflammation. They find the inflammation, and the stem cells do away with that. So I do that for anti-aging. But we just had the gentleman here the other day, the fourth ranked amateur golfer in the world. He had it on both of his feet. We
Mm.
just did it for another gentleman here, a local gentleman, a flower farmer that sends a ton of flowers to the U.S. every day. He just did the stem cells, and both of us just had our blood drawn so that we give our blood to the National University of Colombia, and then they they separate the plasma from the T cells. What are T cells? T cells are the cells that go and kill, like cancer cells or any other cells that don't belong in our body. And so then they grow our own T cells from our own body. They grow them for 3 weeks. And so during those 3 weeks, we're detoxing our bodies, giving it great nutrition, and then we put these killer T cells back into the body, and they just gobble stuff up that doesn't belong there. So I do it for prevention of cancer, but we've also treated cancer patients here. And
Hmm.
so it seems to be very, very effective. And the university's been doing this protocol for 7 years. So I'm very confident in what they're doing. We just had a huge success with one of our guests. So I'm excited about the future here.
I think it's a fascinating thing. I think that how you're able to sort of integrate all these different facilities, and people can't see on the video because we're just recording audio here, but I can see you, and the place looks awesome. It's got like a colonial type of vibe with the wooden
Yeah.
ceiling. Is it an older building? Like, how did you get this
Yeah.
this
So I,
place?
I bought my apartment in Medellin in 2015. It took me a year to find this place. I looked at probably 20 different fincas. And when finca translate to farm, but it's not really farm. These are more like haciendas. It's their second home for the weekends and stuff like that. So this I was lucky here. The main house is probably 8,000 square feet with five enormous bedrooms, a huge living
Wow,
room, a library, and the kitchen. And
it's a
then
big house.
yeah, and the original owner had stables adjacent to the home, and the second owner because he had a large family, he converted the stables into 7 bedrooms. So we have 12 bedrooms, and so just very fortunate to find this place. And then I added a lot to it as far as the gymnasium. I built some pickleball courts. I built some golf
Mm,
stuff. We have an indoor golf track, man. But more importantly, the medical center. We also have a monastery where we do
mm,
our ceremonies, we do yoga, we do breath work. Literally every natural healing protocol that's effective we use here, and we're not against Western medicine. If that's applicable, that's applicable. So we're open to anything that's going to help the person heal themselves. We don't believe that we heal anybody. We set the environment, give you the protocols, but it's up to the individual and their creator whether what's going to happen with them, right? But we just try to give you all the tools that will enable that to happen easily for you and as fast as possible.
you guys got a sauna?
Yeah, so we imported our sauna from Finland. It's one of my favorite things to do. It probably holds about 7, 8 people, and it's infrared, which means that
Mm,
pierces the skin deeper, so it detoxes you from the inside out. But then it's got 200 volcanic rocks in the sauna, and at the very end, you pour water on that, and you create the
yeah.
steam. Now you're heating yourself from the outside in. So I spend 15 minutes in there, and then I go. We have a cold plunge which is 45 degrees. And then I spend 5 to 10 minutes in there. And I do that 3 times a day. In addition to the cold plunge, we also have an ice bath. So the cold plunge is 45 degrees, but the Uh, the ice bath is like 38 degrees. So I don't go in that one very often, but I love the hot and the cold. It just, something that it does to me is just amazing, and it just invigorates the heck out of me.
Okay, I'm gonna come stay just so I can
Yeah,
sauna
yeah,
and
yeah.
do some breath work, and maybe I'll you know see what
And,
other
and we got a great gym, and we have all this biohacking equipment that's state of the art and really helps to detoxify the body, and the food, and we have colonics. So yeah, this is the place to get well for sure.
Okay, so what are colonics? I don't know.
So it's hydrocolon therapy, but they put water up your rectum to
Okay.
clean the colon.
Okay.
And
Was I expected to know this?
well, eh, it's not everybody's heard of them, right? So we do that for about 30 minutes or so, and then we put some ozone up there, and then some coffee. And what does the coffee do? Coffee detoxes the liver. And so this comes from a therapy called the Gerson therapy, and we pretty much use a Gerson therapy diet, which is mostly plant based. And so Gerson was a guy that was healing people of cancer in the U.S. many decades ago, and was probably getting a little too much heat. So he ended up going to Mexico. So he has a center there in, I think, Tijuana, but somewhere not far from the border. And so this Gerson therapy, he healed a lot of people from cancer. And so detoxing the liver, I mean, there's nothing, the heart and the liver, I mean, those are organs that we can't really live without because we only got one of them.
Hmm.
So, and the other thing with detoxing the liver, all of our anger that we have is stored in our liver. So we start to detox that, and we see our anger start to dissipate. We get out of
Mm,
fight or flight. We become more calm, less anxious. So they're very powerful. And most people, I mean, I'm going to I'll err on the low side, but are got 10 to 15 pounds of fecal matter that doesn't belong there. And what happens is it blocks the wall for the nutrition to get through the intestine and into the bloodstream, right? It's called mucoid plaque. So when we start removing that kind of stuff from you, then the food is able to be get more nutrients into the cell. So, there's nothing more important than the digestive system as well. If our gut is bad, and most people's
mhm,
gut is bad today
mhm.
because they use this stuff glyphosate. When I was a kid, it was called Roundup, and we would use it to kill the weeds. But what
Right.
they do now is because they have fake seeds, GMO seeds, they've designed them where they won't die if exposed to the poison of glyphosate. So before they harvest the wheat, they dump a bunch of glyphosate on it. It actually yields a 30% bigger crop. But guess what? It's poison. So when we eat, that's why everybody's gluten free, gluten free. You can go to Europe and eat gluten. You come down here and eat gluten. It's wheat that's been sprayed with this glyphosate. That gets into your gut, and then that kills all the good bacteria, and it allows the bad bacteria to really grow and overtake the body, like candida, like parasites. I'll give you an example. I had a heart problem. Okay, and I did a guy pricked my finger, took one drop of blood, put it on a glass slide, put it under a microscope, and one drop of blood, I had 6 parasites. And at the same time, my heart was failing because because I was full of heavy mercury poisoning, heavy mercury. So what
Mm,
happens is the heavy metals, which are there's tons of them in the air today, the parasites wrap themselves around the heavy metal, and then the T cells and the immune system can't find them. So I had all these parasites attacking my heart, and so therefore my heart was working at about 40% of capacity, and I could barely get out of bed. Once I did a mercury detox and I did a parasite cleanse, my heart went back to normal.
interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I was just in Mexico for the majority of the year, and I feel like usually what people do is they'll do this dewormer
Yeah,
thing
right.
about every year. I,
Correct.
you get it for $5 from the
Exactly.
the corner store pharmacy, but
Mhm.
I assume you have some more naturopathic
Yeah,
solutions.
we do, but the dewormer is called ivermectin, right? And so I think last week I took like 80 drops, and just yesterday I took 80 drops. So I try to do it every 6 months, and so it's so affordable, and it just works. In America, we don't think we have parasites. And I promise you, anybody who's eating sushi or a lot of medium rare steak has parasites. I mean, everybody has parasites, but overwhelming the body with parasites, especially the sushi. And so it's really, really important that we detox those and get them out of it because they wreak havoc on our body. And these are living organisms that can communicate to our mind. And that's why we get these urges for sugar because they live off of sugar or beer. So they're really creating chemical signals that get into the brain and say, oh man, I could really use some ice cream right now. Well, a lot of times that's just the parasites giving us a signal, say, hey, I'm hungry down here. But if we go on a juice fast or a water fast would be even better, then all that stuff starts to die. And then when it does, we get more energy. And the more energy life is all about energy. If you don't have any energy, you're not alive. And the quality of your life is about energy. So the cleaner you can get your body, the more energy you're going to have, and the better you're going to sleep, and the less anxiety you're going to have, and life is going to flow more than be a struggle. And I see a lot of people that are way overweight. Obesity is huge in America now. 1 out of 2 people get heart disease. 1 out of 2 people are projected to get cancer. So, and when I grew up in the 50s, 60s, that wasn't the reality. I looking back, I can see how everything changed. We replaced butter with margarine. Margarine's a plastic, right? So everything we did that, seed oils are terrible for us. So, but what happened was, give you an example. So every cell in our body has a nicotine receptor on it. And so then why are cigarettes bad for us? Well, what happened is that the big tobacco realized that every cell had a nicotine receptor. So what they did is they attached a chemical to the nicotine, and which was a very addictive chemical. I think it was called prizine. It's been a long time since I studied it, but something like that. And then they would also put arsenic on the paper, and then they'd also put sugar in the tobacco. So that's what got everybody addicted to cigarettes. Nicotine is not bad. I'm wearing a nicotine patch right now.
This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by BitRefill. BitRefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. If you are a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Holze, the author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond $20K a month. So what is job stacking? It's this idea of working multiple remote jobs. You might have heard Rolf, he's worked 5, 7, even 9 remote jobs at the same time before. And by the way, job stacking works equally well for non-technical roles. So no, it's not just for the nerds. So if you're ready to job stack, then book a discovery call with Job Stacking and see how they can double your income in just 9 weeks. In the show notes in the description, there will be a link where you can book a call directly on the Calendly of Job Stacking and be talking with them as early as tomorrow about how to double your income as quickly as possible.
I wear 7 milligrams of nicotine patch every day because every cell has a.
Wow.
Why did nature put a receptor, a nicotine receptor on everything? Well, then what happened in the 80s? Big tobacco was getting lit up with all these lawsuits, okay, because they weren't being honest and they weren't disclosing the truth. So what did they do? They took all that money and they started buying big food. I think they bought General Mills. Don't hold me to this, but I'm going by memory. General Mills, Kraft. They bought three big food companies, and they use the same technology. They put chemicals in the food that makes it addictive. And so therefore, when you say, Lay's chips commercial, you can only eat just one. That's right, because you become addicted to these
Hmm.
chemicals. And so that's really, and they're just coming out right now, and we'll see what happens when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. takes over. But there are so many chemicals in our food that is illegal in Europe. And so it's just big food runs the government. They have the lobbyists and they get everything they want.
Hmm.
But look at the health of Americans. If you look at a picture of 100 people on the beach in the 60s, they're just thin and in good shape. You do it today, and it's heartbreaking. It's all, and it's not the people's fault. It's the manufacturers of these foods' fault. And then they say, well, and the soil is ruined there. We have the purest soil I've ever seen in my whole life here, and we use no chemicals whatsoever. But there, the soils have been just trounced with chemicals, harvest after harvest after harvest. They don't let the soil rest. It's all about making as much money as fast as you can because the world is run by big corporations, and the problem with corporations is they don't have a heart and they don't have a soul. They just have one mandate: to make as much money, a return on investment for their investors as they can at whatever cost. And so I understand that mindset, but it's really destroying the health of humanity.
No, it's totally true. When you go to Latin America, the fruit is just so
Yeah,
much better. The
yeah.
vegetables are so much better. The eggs are better.
The
The
meat,
pro
it's grass fed. There. I don't. I mean, I used to work for a big chicken manufacturer and a pretty good one, processor, right? But these poor chickens barely move. They're just crammed so together. So I think these cows are born and they hardly ever take a step. They're there to, especially the milking ones. So everything here is grass fed, wild, and you notice the taste. When I eat steak here, which isn't often, but when I do, it reminds me of being a kid in the 60s, the flavor, because it's grass fed.
Yeah, it's 100% true. And people like to say the retort to this would be, well, we can get the expensive stuff in the US. We can get the organic stuff. It just costs more. It's like, can you really though? You know better than anyone. You're in California. You got the Whole Foods, the Trader Joe's. Can you even like what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, listen, they put a little sticker that says it comes from Mexico, and there's a little sticker that says it's organic. Do I buy that? No. Am I going to buy that over the next one, even though it costs more? Probably. But I'll tell you what's funny to me is, okay, just it's all mindset, it's all brainwashing, right? So what's interesting here is they import meat from the US called USDA grade, which is full of chemicals and hormones, and they charge more for it here in Colombia where they have their own grass-fed beef, because it's a mindset. Oh, it's from the U.S. It has to be better, right? So that's USDA prime. Oh my gosh! So they pay extra money to import this meat here, and when their own meat is so much healthier for us. So it's a mindset. It's a belief system.
I think you picked like such an incredible location, being right near the airport there. You must have got in early. I bet your property like tripled in value or something, right?
Yeah, it has because what happened because of the pandemic, everybody in Medellin moved to their finca. So they moved up here where I am, and then they said, "Well, why do I live in the city?" Okay, so they all got rid of their apartments in the city, and just right next to us. I'll give you an example. I bought this in 2016. I have 20 acres. My neighbor probably had 200 acres and he
Wow.
sold, and then a developer came in and now they're building 120 homes there. So that, which has really made my property go up, right? But it's just so beautiful up here. It's so peaceful. and the weather is ideal. So yeah, this is the fastest growing place in Medellin for sure, and it's definitely the safest place in Colombia because the former president, President Uribe, literally lives no more by as the crow flies, no more than a mile away. So super
Okay.
safe,
So he
super
keeps
beautiful.
things in line.
Yeah, so I feel pretty good being next to him.
That's good. No, yeah, we've had a couple we've had a podcast guest or two based in Rio Negro or so it's a good spot.
Great spot.
I think it's such an interesting business model what you have where it's sort of you like a 12-bedroom hotel or getaway what do you call it? Um
Wellness resort.
wellness, yeah, resort mixed with, you have these sort of doctor and other facilities, wellness facilities that the locals can use. You don't even have to be staying here. So it's almost like you have multiple income streams from this property where you have the income streams from people staying here, from like procedures, quote unquote, or events and activities that you do. I know you run lots of events too.
Yep. Yeah, so we do a fire forgiveness ceremony. We bring indigenous people that run the fire ceremony. We set up the forgiveness part before it starts. There's about a 2.5 hour ceremony. The shaman gives them a little rapé, which is tobacco that goes up their nose. It really centers them. Then we
Hmm.
honor the four directions and the five elements, a lot of singing, chanting, prayers, dancing. So we typically do those on Sunday afternoon. On Saturday afternoon, we built a Temescal, which is
Hmm.
an Adobe type sweat lodge.
Hmm.
Typically down here, they use a nipi. A nipi, they use sacred geometry with the twigs
A
from the
neepy.
trees, and they build it, and then they put blankets, right? That's typically what they did there. But this one comes from Southwest United States, this kind of Temescal. And so every Saturday afternoon, the shaman shows up with a couple of partners for the guitar and they get the rocks so hot, so you need someone to help get the rocks into the sweat lodge. And that's about a 90-minute ceremony, four different stages. Again, prayers, chanting, and sweating, right? So sweating, this is what they've done for centuries, to create health. They go in there
Hmm.
and they would sweat and they'd pray. And then I'll tell you, when I come out of there and I'll just lay on the grass and it's like I used to do a lot of Bikram yoga when I was younger, but it's like,
Hmm.
it's like doing hot yoga times 10. You're so relaxed and it's just such a profound experience. And then Friday nights, we typically do a cacao ceremony. Cacao is a type of chocolate. That's about a 2 hour ceremony with a lot of singing, sharing of intentions, sharing amongst one another. And then we use, at the same time after that, we do sound healing. And so, we have pitch tuning forks that are, 3 feet long. And when they touch you, I mean, you feel it. And so, the body, everything is energy vibrating in a certain frequency, right? And we're made of 50 trillion cells that are living conscious entities, all right? And they're all vibrating in a certain, and they're electrical. So this sound healing and this is just amazing to align your chakras, get your energy balanced. And so those are the ceremonies we do. We also will do other things at certain times if certain people, like we have a gentleman coming, I think, in a few days. He wants to do ayahuasca. It's called yahe here in Colombia. So he's going to do that.
Hmm.
We can look at mushrooms. We have a psychiatrist. He might want to use ketamine. So whatever the guest needs and whatever's going to facilitate their healing, we're going to find a way to give them what they think they need so that they can heal.
That's amazing. How many staff do you have, just to give people an idea?
Well, we have about 20 right now, but we're growing. Our business is growing. We'll probably be by March. This is because this is a new endeavor. When I first bought this, I was going to go this direction, that direction. Then I fell in love, got married, went on a 1 year honeymoon, and then the pandemic hit. So really, we really started creating this vision, this dream that I have in 2023, and then we started doing some experiments and playing around with it in 2024. That's when we built the medical facility. I was blessed to have this amazing woman come and join the team. She's a doctor. She was in did ER for 10 years. She was on TV for 10 years, but has a heart of gold. So she's a general manager, but also our main doctor. And I always say this, there's two things that we have here that I really believe help in the healing process. And this is amazing, the amazing nature that we have here, the amazing sunlight, which is so healing, and then the love of the Colombian people. I mean, I say, if nothing else, we're going to love you to health, because they're so heart based.
Yeah, that's good. That's very funny. I mean, well, I mean, managing 20 people is no small feat, especially when you're in California half the time.
Well, let me add one other problem is I don't speak Spanish. so
Yeah.
so it's that's I should have learned, but I didn't. But so that's the other challenge. But fortunately, I have a great general manager that's bilingual. We have probably, of our 20 people, six of them are bilingual, so enough to
Mhm.
make everybody happy and comfortable.
And what are some of the most popular services that you have? So you have the stem cells, you have
Yeah.
the the colon thing.
Yeah.
Sounds like you do a lot though. What are the most popular, like top five?
Well, every day, this is what people do. They do the biohacking circuit that we call it. Okay, so we have, and these are all designed to detox the body, plus a million other things. Not a million, but quite a few other things it does for the body. So, for example, we have exercise with oxygen therapy. So we put
Hmm.
we fill these bags up with 93% pure oxygen. Right now, you and I are breathing maybe 22, 23% pure oxygen. So now we put a mask on your face, and now you're breathing 93% pure oxygen while we put you on a bicycle. So your body's getting flooded with oxygen. Illness can't, especially cancer, can't survive in an oxygen rich environment. So that really helps relax the body and get the oxygen deeper into the body. Then we have red light therapy. Once again, great for detoxing. When I am in California, my favorite thing to do every morning is to go outside with as little clothes on as possible, barefoot. So I'm grounding to Mother Earth. I'm picking up the negative electrons and watch that sunrise. Even before you can see the sun, all of a sudden you can see the energy. You can see the photons. I feel as if God is programming me for the day as I watch the sunrise for like 15, 20 minutes and I take in all this red light. We are batteries, and what we need is we need that light, and we need good fats like fish oil, and then we charge the battery, and that cells make the mitochondria. If you feed the mitochondria right, that creates the energy. And so I love doing that. So the red light therapy is profound. We have these pads that you lay on. It's like laying on Mother Earth, but it's pulse electromagnetic field therapy. And again, it's pushing blood deeper into the capillaries so they can carry more oxygen to deeper into the body and get rid of more waste. We also have these things called a biocharger, which are put out these electromagnetic frequencies. Again, we live in an electromagnetic world, and we are electrical beings. So we put you in these fields, and there's different ones. We program it for detox. We can program it for cardio health. There's like maybe 100 different programs. Then we have these shift wave chairs. There's zero gravity shift wave chairs, and they have these plates that pound you, these pulsating plates, and you put on headphones, you put on eye shades, and you lay in the zero gravity chair and you listen to some sort of program. My favorite one is Boost Your Day, and it takes you through 4 sessions of breath work. So in 17 minutes, I'm getting all my breath work done while these plates are moving my lymph system. I actually believe it's also probably moving my cerebral spinal fluid, which cleanses the brain. So after you can, and some people sit in these for an hour or more. And so it just the most relaxing thing that you can do. Then we have salt therapy. We put you in a tent and you start breathing in salt. It helps to detox the body, clear up the lungs. Like asthma patients love that. So that's what we do, the biohacking. Then we have the water circuit. We have, along with the sauna, we have a Turkish steam bath, which is beautiful to sit in. And we
Wow.
put some essential oils in there. And again, our pool is salt water. Swimming laps there are completely different than in a chlorine pool. We have a 12-person jacuzzi. And then I mentioned the cold plunge. the pickleball courts. So if you want to have some fun, we have some pickleball tournaments. We have a golf putting green and sand traps. So we also have a 12th century labyrinth that's imported. The template is imported from Paris, France, outside Paris, France, and in the Chartres Cathedral. And we have a walking meditation that you do. And people
What
can
does that
walk.
mean? You have a labyrinth.
So a labyrinth is like a maze, right? And in the Chartres Cathedral in Paris, pilgrims have been walking this. It's like a meditative walk, but like the tree of life is in the middle of this thing, and it's this winding way to get to the middle. So I tell people, hey, what you're doing on the way in there, you're like an onion, and you're getting rid of all your childhood programming, all the programming that doesn't serve you anymore, all the belief systems. Just let them go as you walk to the center of this labyrinth. And then when you get to the center, and literally the way this is designed, you're walking on sand, but when you clap your hands outside the labyrinth, you get one sound. When you're dead center in the middle of the labyrinth and you clap your hands, you get a whole different sound because of the frequency, the energy. Everything is energy, right? And so as you're walking out, then I say, hey, let's program the life that you really want. And that's now we're getting into my book, The Creation Frequency, which is about the law of attraction like nobody has ever taught it before, because I use the power of sound and the power of your own voice and the power of putting yourself in a self-hypnotic trance like you were when you were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. When we're born to age 8, we're in theta brainwave state. So what I teach people is to using a relaxation script, using theta brainwave music, I get them into a self-hypnotic trance. Then they record their intentions. Now, when I have them write their intentions, I say there's no difference between imagination and reality. So whatever it is you want, I want you to write it as if it already exists, and then I want you to feel it. See what happens when, and then we record it, and then every morning you listen to it, every night you listen to it. So the intention goes into the field of infinite possibilities where it meets like-minded thoughts or intentions vibrating the same frequency, and then all of a sudden the right book shows up, the right person, the right funding, the right idea shows up because you're putting that into the field. And the more love and gratitude and the betterment for humanity you can attach to that intention, the heart is the magnet that draws it back to you. So we put the intention into the field, the heart draws it back. And that's called the law of attraction. I just do it differently because I want people to use their own voice, because there's a power in sound. The Bible says God spoke this world into existence. He said, let there be light, and there was light. So we teach that as well and get people to write their intentions, record them from what they really want. See, most of us, if we don't wake up, we're running the program from birth to age 8, what our parents wanted for us, what society wanted for us, what school. We never really figure out what we really want. We never get, and we lose connection to our soul and why we came here. So we get on all these little crazy places that we don't need to go to, and we never find ourselves, and we literally die with our music still in us. So that's what we teach here as well.
This is amazing, Mike. I love what you built. I think you've inspired a lot of people here today.
Thank you. I hope so. I got excited yesterday because a wealthy flower farmer came here and got the stem cells and for him and his wife and also the natural killer cells. But then he brought his best friend from America who arrived yesterday. And he's probably 70, 72 or something. He said, Mike, I've been all over the world. I used to go to this place in Mexico all the time. I think it's called Rancho Las Portas. And he says, this is the best place I've ever been in my whole life. So to hear that from an American, because I always say we're US 4-star because I'm used to staying in the Four Seasons, and we're South American 5-star. But this guy said, no, you're 5-star. So that made me feel good.
So were you always this chill when you were a car salesman guy, or is this something where you had to have a life change?
No, I was. Let's see, how old was I? I was 23 when I left my wife. So I was about 24 years old. I have an eighth grade education. I had no money. I'm broke. I walked out on my wife and my 2-month-old baby. Now I'm divorced for 2 years. I'm miserable. I'm dying inside that I've lost my family. I can't quit drinking. I can't stay off drugs. I'm in a 12-step program. And a buddy says, hey, I've never met anybody as messed up as you, but I think I know somebody that can help you. And he introduced me to a recovering alcoholic. And here's what he said to me. He said, Mike, you come here 1 hour a week for 7 weeks. I promise you'll get everything you want in your life. And I had nothing. And by the way, it's $50 an hour. But I had nothing to lose. I had nothing, right? And so I didn't even have $50. I just wrote him a bad check to start the process. But 7 weeks later, I left there with six powerful intentions. One was to get my wife and daughter back. One was to make $10,000 a month. One was to own my own business. One was to own my own house. One was to run a marathon. And the last one he said has to be around contribution. So I created a contribution intention. So this man taught me, and lo and behold, I got my wife and my daughter back a couple of years later. I owned my own business 4 months later. I've owned my own business almost ever since. I mean, I've had an amazing life. But then what happened is my second wife, that I married my first wife twice, and then we ended up separating, getting divorced. And my second wife at the time was 29. I was like 44. And I found a golf ball sized tumor in her breast, stage 3 breast cancer. And so she loved me whenever I couldn't even love myself. And so we became consumed with beating this cancer. We eventually got married. And then when she passed, she'd always told me for the 10 years we were together, Mike, you need to learn to be vulnerable. You need to be learned to be vulnerable. I didn't know what the hell she was talking about until the day she died. And then I was as vulnerable could be. And it was in that moment that my whole life changed, that I believe that God came in, filleted open my heart, took out all the arrogance, all the self-centeredness, to replace it with love. And then that led to a nonprofit foundation where I spent 4 to 5 years serving women below the poverty line with financial grants while they were battling cancer. So I've had a lot of different lifetimes in my life, an amazing bunch of experiences. I left home at age 14. I was a habitual runaway, juvenile delinquent. So I've seen all sides of life. And what I can tell you is that I think the biggest problem today is that so many people are walking around as victims. And the truth is, we're either all victims or none of us are victims. So pick your poison. But the reality is, we're powerful creators. And we came here to create something. But we get brainwashed into believing that we're not good enough and we're not going to make it. And some people, the odds are stacked against them. Let's be honest. If I'm born in one of these barrios in Medellin, okay, it's going to be a lot tougher. Okay, so we have to give thanks for the opportunities that we were given. But I tried to screw my life up as good as I could, and I just got lucky, and I met someone that taught me this, and that changed everything.
Wow, Mike, an incredible story.
Thank you.
Is there any final message that you'd want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I would say this. And I just spent 5 days with a guy not too long ago that was struck by lightning in 1975, and he was clinically dead for 28 minutes. And I'm studying another guy that teaches you how your soul can leave your body. And so I would just say to everybody, go inside. We have these two eyes looking out, but the truth is we need to close our eyes and go inside into our heart and find our soul and find our connection to God or source or whatever your higher power is for you. It exists, and there is help. Okay, but from the unseen world, when I teach people to journal, I say, hey, I start with gratitude. Thank you for my family. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my job. Thank you for my health, whatever. Get in a state of gratitude. And then I ask Heavenly Father, please give me wisdom. How should I do this? What about this? And if people will realize that they're not alone, their loved ones that have passed over are still there to serve them. There are angels. There's all kinds of resources right here. We live in a very small spectrum of the electromagnetic field. It's about 2%, right? So what's happening right here in this is energy. Tesla said you want to understand the universe, it's energy, vibration, and frequency. And Dr. Joe Dispenza calls this the field of infinite possibilities. The Bible calls it ether. The Chinese call it chi. The Indians call it prana. But just the physicality of all this, we're made of atoms, which are 99.9999% space. So the physicality of everything is the illusion. And when we're sleeping and we're out of body, is probably more real. We just have to get tuned in to our soul and get reconnected to our soul. And then we can literally usher heaven back on the earth. and end a lot of the unnecessary suffering going on. And that's my mission, is to wake up the people that they're powerful spiritual beings, and they can never die. And that when you lose your fear of death and you realize you're here to do something, and that could be just, I look at it like this: there's 8 billion people allegedly in the world today. If 4 billion of us would lift up someone less fortunate, this whole paradigm would shift and all this nonsense would go away, and we would be humanity living in unity and integrity and responsibility, and that would be heaven back on the earth. So that's my hope and message for anybody and everybody, that you're a powerful spiritual being and you came here for a purpose.
Wow. I'm sure this is the moment where we got to go another hour or we got to cut it. And I think we'll be respectful of your time. And thank you so much for doing this, Mike. Hour 2 would have been wild. I think we were just getting you going there. But it's an amazing facility and program that you've created at Mountains of Hope, and the book. I mean, the book is really good. Reviews, guys. 443 reviews, 4.7 stars on Amazon. Not bad, Mike.
Thank you very much. And if someone is struggling with a health issue, physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, just go to mountainsofhope.com and book a free call with our doctors. And there's a lot of natural healing that can take place. And I really believe that people can, in the right environment, can heal themselves of almost anything if it's not too late.
And tell them My Latin Life sent you.
There you go. Perfect. And then you're always welcome here, Vance. You just let me know when you want to come down here.
Thanks. I appreciate the invite. Mike, thank you again for doing this. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. There'll be a link in the description for everything Mike Murphy is working on. And to the audience, also, please subscribe to the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to this. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Mike, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.